Well, today's the big day where the House finally votes to impeach old Donald Trump. Frankly, I think that this day couldn't have come soon enough because they've been whining about how they wanted to impeach him ever since he was elected. Because they said, "Oh, well, you're illegitimate. You didn't win the popular vote. You were helped by the Russians. That's the only reason you won." And all this garbage. And they've been saying, "Oh, we're going to impeach, and now finally they're doing it. And I'm glad that they're just going to get it over with. Because, of course, they don't have the power to actually, implement this impeachment to remove him from office. All they can do is pass their little impeachment vote. And now that they will have finally done it and had the impeachment vote, they won't be able to keep talking about how they're going to impeach him or how, oh, this needs to be impeached and all this nonsense. These impeachment hearings, of course, have been some of the most annoying parts of this whole process because they do the horrible, god-awful thing that they do in congressional hearings, and of course they make a mockery of court proceedings and trials by bringing in these so-called experts, which are really just people who confirm their bias. They brought in a bunch of academics and they said, hey, academics, is Trump bad? And they say, yes, Trump is very bad. We don't like this Trump guy. And then the Democrats sit back and they go, wow, this is stunning testimony. These academics don't like Trump. And of course, this gives the news media an easy excuse not to report on anything that actually matters to the country. They just do wall-to-wall impeachment coverage, and it's very lazy. They can send one person down there, or frankly, they could just go off the pool camera or watch C-SPAN and not even have to send any physical reporters down there and just talk about impeachment all day. And so now that they are going to pass the articles of impeachment, this whole process will finally move on to the Senate, where there will be a trial conducted, a formal trial. And from what I understand, they don't plan on calling any witnesses. I think that the Senate plans on just immediately, bringing up the trial and then going straight to a vote, because they know that there really hasn't been anything compelling that has been brought up in the House. All they've done is they've created some very vague abuse of power article of impeachment and another one that I don't even remember what the second one was. The second one was even less compelling. This abuse of power idea, though, is completely subjective. I mean, if you ask me, every president since probably Theodore Roosevelt has abused their power, in that they've gone beyond the constitutional outlines of their job description. The president is very clear, is just supposed to implement the laws passed by Congress. That's a pretty basic thing. It's not very fancy. The president's job is not to, say, hold beer summits or to fight wars that are undeclared, which we've had plenty of those over the last century. Their job is not to push legislation themselves. Their job is not to wield some giant bureaucracy that spies on the American people and blackmails ordinary individuals. Their job is not to assassinate American citizens who happen to be outside of the country. I could go on for an hour about all the things that modern American presidents do that are, could be called abuses of power if you're just looking at their strict constitutional limits. But if we look in this case as to what exactly they're accusing Trump of, how he abused his power, it again is completely subjective. What they're calling an abuse of power, if you listen to the testimony of these folks, if you listen to the bureaucrats, the so-called deep state operatives, the intelligence folks, the State Department diplomats who are coming forward and saying Trump abused his power, what are they accusing of? They're saying, oh, well, he went against what our department's policy was, what the bureaucrats told him to do. He did something different. In that, we have decided that we're going to back Ukraine fully 100% in this war, and Trump, apparently, they're accusing him of playing some kind of carrot and stick game with the Ukrainians and not being fully on their side. And so let's parse out exactly what Trump here did that's different from other presidents. Every president who has presided over foreign aid and this whole regime of giving aid to other countries understands that they do that to buy the loyalty of these countries so that they will do favors for the United States. That is why we give foreign aid to all sorts of different countries. And so there's a very clear quid pro quo there in every case. It is, we give you money, and then when we ask for favors, you do them. Whether that's say the Pakistan telling us where Osama bin Laden is, even though they didn't really do that, or Saudi Arabia letting the U.S. put all sorts of troops in their country. It's very clear that countries don't get foreign aid out of just the goodness of the president's heart. And so in this case, Trump was trying to use that carrot and that stick. And they felt that in this case that was unwarranted. Because he wasn't sufficiently putting Ukraine first, and because they were trying to use that foreign aid carrot to try and, in their words, get dirt on Joe Biden. So depending on your political persuasion, you could take that and spin it as, well, Trump was obviously just trying to get dirt on Biden because he is so worried about this very tough candidate, Biden. He's such a competent campaigner, as we've seen over the last couple months in the Democratic primaries. So he's going to be a really tough opponent if he makes it to the general election. That's why Trump wants his dirt. Or you could think, hey, the Vice President of the United States seems to be implicated in some pretty corrupt dealings here, and we should probably look into that and want to know the details about that. So if you're a Republican, you're going to say, oh, well, of course, that's very legitimate interest. Looks like the Vice President, did some corrupt deal where he helped his son get a job at an oil company. So this is very clearly a partisan issue. This is subjective enough to where how you vote on the impeachment matter is going to be pretty much 100% determined by your pre-existing loyalties. And frankly, that's what the Democrats get for trying to impeach Trump for something so minor in comparison to everything else that, not only he, but all the other presidents have done. If they wanted, they could have impeached Trump for waging an unconstitutional war in Yemen, but then they would look dumb because Obama also did that and they didn't impeach him. But, no matter how you spin it, that's a much more legitimate reason. It's very clear that you can impeach him for that. It's not some vague, abuse of power that can be left up into interpretation. You could make it a very clear idea of how Trump abused his power, and that's by waging a war that was not declared by Congress. So what's going to happen here is that the Senate is going to acquit Trump fairly quickly, which I think is the correct strategy. You don't want to draw this out. You want to shut this down because it's not something that should be taken seriously. It's not a serious impeachment endeavor. It's frankly very very similar to the Republicans' attempt to impeach Bill Clinton. The Democrats have pretty much copied the playbook, and that they picked a very dumb reason to impeach this man, and they're only impeaching him because they don't like him. And the voters can see that. People who voted for Trump are not going to be convinced by this and to think, oh my gosh, Trump must be this terrible, corrupt guy. I should support him being removed from office. I guess we were wrong about him when we voted him. No, people are going to look at this and go, oh my gosh, the Democrats are trying to overturn the election. That's how people are going to see this. They're going to see this as an insult, as the Democrats trying to reverse their vote and to override it. And the Democrats, of course, Democrat voters, of course, are going to say, oh, well, there's our good representatives in Congress just doing their job and getting rid of the orange man. And we always knew that orange man was a bad guy. Now, there are going to be some folks who are undecided either way, and who may be swayed and think and actually take this impeachment process seriously and think, wow, well, Trump's being impeached. He must have done something pretty bad. There are those people. They do exist. However, if you want to take advantage of those people, these sort of low-information voters who don't pay much attention but will see a thing here or there about how Trump's being impeached, these are not folks who have long memories when it comes to politics. So sure, right now, in December 2019, they're thinking, wow, that Trump guy might be pretty bad. And they might be thinking to themselves, gee, I wouldn't vote for him if there was an election tomorrow. However, there's not an election tomorrow. And by the Senate, hurrying up and getting this trial over and done with and acquitting Trump as soon as possible, these same low information people are going to, not only be somewhat swayed by seeing that the Senate acquitted the president and going, oh, well, I guess if he got acquitted, the people who were gullible enough to see, oh, well, Trump's being impeached by the House, he must have done something bad, will be gullible enough to think, oh, well, the Senate acquitted him, so he must be innocent. These voters are pure souls who don't quite understand the partisanship that much. This is a very small minority of people, but nevertheless, their votes are up for grabs. So anyway, while they might be quite off-put by Trump right now because of this whole impeachment stuff, by the time the election rolls around in November, they probably won't even remember that any of this happened, because it'll be long in the past. And if they do remember anything, they'll remember that Trump was acquitted, and that he's still in office, meaning that he didn't do anything wrong, that he was innocent of whatever that he was charged with. And so therefore, I don't think that this impeachment debacle will have any impact on undecided voters to the extent that there are any coming this November. The way that the Democrats could have actually used this impeachment whole deal to their advantage would have been to drag it out. First of all, they would have had to start a lot later. I would have started the impeachment process in July, probably, mid to late July, actually very late July, maybe even August, and then held the actual impeachment vote in the House the week of the election. So that way, going into the election, the headlines would have been, oh, Trump impeached. And then people are thinking, well, why am I going to vote for a guy when he's just going to be removed from office in a couple weeks anyway? What's the point? Why would I throw my vote away on him? And then people are just going to vote for the Democrat to want to be with the winner, which is a very serious problem when it comes to low information voters, is you have that bandwagoning effect. If they think that a certain person's going to win, they're going to be inclined to vote for them. So that would be a huge thing to the Democrats' advantage. So I think if they were able to just keep their base, suppressed long enough, and if Nancy Pelosi had been able to hold out and keep the impeachment frenzy sort of to a minimum, to a low boil, until this summer, well, then this really could have helped them. But by doing it now, they're just wasting all their energy. I guess the only positive impact for the Democrats that this whole impeachment thing will have is that it will rile up their voters, and it will make them feel disappointed and angry, because they've been told for months that this Trump guy, he's terrible, he's corrupt, this is a clear-cut case, he needs to be impeached. And then the House goes and impeaches him, and then the Senate doesn't even really hold a trial. They just vote, and all the Republicans vote to acquit Trump, and so they're going to say, well, that's illegitimate, because they're only voting for Trump because he is the Republican, and they don't want their guy to be impeached, and so they're standing by him. So all the Republicans are corrupt. That's how they're going to look at it. They're going to look at that this was a sham trial in the Senate, and that Trump really should have been impeached. They're going to say he's an illegitimate president, that he should not be in there, that they want Mike Pence for some reason, which is really what you're saying when you want Trump impeached. I find that very strange, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that most Democrats probably haven't thought through what a President Mike Pence would look like. And so once Trump's acquitted, the Democrat voters will be emboldened to then go and vote for the Democrat to really get Trump out of office, because they'll say, well, maybe we couldn't beat him through the proper legal proceedings, and now we've got this illegitimate president here. Well, now we really got to vote harder, as some libertarian folks like to always say mockingly about people who get excited about politics. Vote harder. Maybe you'll get something this time. And that's really the position I think that the Democrats are in, because Trump obviously will not be impeached or will not be removed from office after this impeachment. And the Republicans, likewise, I think, will also vote harder, because they will feel like that Trump survived this deep state coup. And so now they really got to show their support for him to make sure that he has another 4 years that will, now that he's got all this behind him, he'll have an actual 4 years. So look at this as a wasted 4 years in which Trump was bogged down in people trying to overthrow him. And so now they got to give him a real term. And so that'll really embolden the Republicans. And like I said, I think that this will have no net effect on undecided voters. So with that said, I very much look forward to all of this being behind us. I'm very tired of this impeachment garbage. Not that the news will talk about anything interesting once it's over, but at least there might be a little bit more variety of topics covered on the cable news channels. So if you get anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.